Capital, where our correspondent Phil Ihaza is standing by. We were speaking to him just before we lost the connection, and he told us that the envoys the sent by President Ramaphosa have arrived already. Phil, thanks very much. I think you're back on the line now. Just before we lost contact, I asked whether the commotions and the violence that we saw in Nigeria, retaliatory violence, had calmed down now, and that that violence wasn't being seen anymore.
Oh, thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed, the reprisal attacks and violence or retaliatory violence on South African businesses in Nigeria has since stopped, actually, since last week when the President those attacks and beefed up security presence across the country, especially concentrated on South African businesses and, of course, the embassies, which initially had temporarily closed, shut down to avoid, violence on its staff and property. That has since stopped or subsided. There are no reports of any form of tension or violence as to the South African businesses. But then we know that diplomatic tensions have been strained in the course of these weeks as regards to violence on foreign nationals in South Africa, which saw about 188 Nigerians return to the country. They were evacuated last week as the first batch of over 600 Nigerians that are supposed to return to Nigeria or be repatriated, according to the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. So we know that the visit by the special envoys from President Cyril Ramaphosa is supposed to mend the fences between both countries, especially in the wake of these recent attacks, also known as xenophobic attacks on foreign nationals, especially Nigeria. They're supposed to also visit other African countries like Niger, Ghana, and a host of others.
Has Nigeria's president said anything in the interim? I know that he's going to be meeting the envoys, and there's likely going to be some kind of statement following that. But in the lead up to this, has he been saying anything beyond what you said? He condemned the violence, but has there been any kind of communication or trying to encourage, as we heard at the weekend with President Ramaphosa in Zimbabwe, this unity amongst Africans on the continent?
Well, so far, much of the communication have been to repatriate Nigerians who willingly asked to be, to return to the country. There's also the communication from the presidency about the state visit in October. We're not sure what day yet, but there's a state visit in October by President Muhammadu Buhari to his counterpart in South Africa for them to further discuss these details. We also know that the special envoy that President Buhari sent to South Africa that's last week, he has returned, and he has also briefed the president on the exact findings in South Africa. The details have not been made public yet, but so far we know that that meeting between President Buhari and the special envoys should be happening in the hour at the State House Presidential Villa in Abuja. I'm sure that in the event that meeting is concluded, we will definitely get the response from President Buhari.
All right. What's been the reaction of Nigerians as they see their countrymen being repatriated in the way that you've described? I guess it must be hard to monitor, but maybe through social media platforms, what's been the chatter?
Well, as regards the return of Nigerians to back home, it's been one of mixed feelings, especially as we saw them return last week. Many Nigerians went to the airport in Lagos, that's Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos State, Southwest Nigeria, to give them some form of comfort, welcome, and of course the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, led by the chairperson Abike Dabiri Erewa. She's been on hand, handling this issue. The government has actually actually provided adequate data and call credit for them to be able to get in touch with their family, start life all over again for the next 2 months. They've also promised to empower them in terms of providing them startup funds for them to start their lives over again. So it's been a lot of feelings on social media, on across the board of Nigerians saying that these are people that left behind. Some of them left behind their families, some left behind businesses that they've operated in South Africa from many years. But the most important thing is that they are now in Nigeria, and the government is doing their bit to ensure that they have a good landing as well and a good startup back home. Nigerians definitely will always ask for more from the government to see how that they can either recover some of the items that they lost during the xenophobic attacks, and I'm sure, as the government says, it's working on it in terms of compensation.
All right, Phil, we're going to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed. That's our correspondent, Phil Ihaza, who's reporting there from Abuja, the capital of the West African nation.